You know what seems fun? Those ranking every X videos YouTubers like Schieferless or LS Mark do sometimes. I feel like doing something fun today. Let's do one of those. It's my channel, I'm doing what I want. My wife got me Astro Bot for Christmas, and I absolutely adored it. I'd like to talk about what makes it so great, so why not do that in the internet's favorite format, a numbered list. For this list, I'm not including the levels to unlock the bonus Lost Void challenge stages because they're not levels, they're just running forward to unlock some levels, and I'm not including the crash site because it's not a level, it's a hub world. That puts our final level count at 86, including the 5 Stellar Speedway stages, the Winter Wonder stage, and the 5 Vicious Void stages, all added as free DLC. Prior to this, I had only played Astro's Playroom and not the PSVR exclusive Astro game because I do not own a PSVR. I haven't engaged with the Astro Bot fandom at all, and so I have no idea if my rankings on this list are going to be anything like what other players generally liked in the game or not, but I have a feeling I'm going to find out once this video is published. Let's rank some levels. 86 through 82, Crumble Rumble. Unfortunately, like any game, Astro Bot is far from perfect. I've also got this list broken into tiers, and we've got a few truly bad F-tier levels to make our way through before we get to the good stuff. The F-tier section of this list is actually going to be super short though, because all I've got here are some bonus arena levels, beginning with the Crumble Rumbles. Each of Astro Bot's 5 main galaxies have 2 arena fights included as hidden bonus levels, called Crumble Rumble and Retro Rampage. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these arena fight levels work, and they're all placed at the very bottom of this list. The gimmick to the Crumble Rumble stages is that the floor of the arena you're fighting in falls away when you use Astro's laser legs to extend your jump. Some of the fights include enemies who can only be defeated by knocking the platform out from under them, which is kind of interesting, but most of these levels are brain dead easy and extremely short. Retro Rampage 1 and 2 especially are just nothing. They're nothing. If all 5 of these arena fights were grouped together back to back, this might be a somewhat interesting level that would rise all the way to being a D, or maybe even the heights of a low C, but as it is, most of these fights are over before they start. In addition to that, Astro Bot isn't a game with a heavy combat focus. You really only have a punch and your laser legs at your disposal to fight enemies with unless you are given a power-up, and none of the Crumble Rumble levels give you power-ups to play with. This idea of knocking enemies out of an arena with crumbling ground is even used as an encounter in other levels throughout the game, so it doesn't feel particularly special here. There's not a lot to say about these individually, so I've grouped them all together like this to keep the beginning of this list from being super repetitive, but my actual ranking from worst to best is Crumble Rumble 1 at last place, 86, then Crumble Rumble 2 at 85, then Crumble Rumble 4 at 84, then Crumble Rumble 5 at 83, and then finally Crumble Rumble 3 at 82. 4 gets a little experimental with it. There are trampolines hidden under the platforms, which you need to uncover, and then use to reach flying enemies, which is novel. 3 is the one with the bells who make flame waves you have to dodge, and who can only be killed by knocking the arena out from under them. So I think that's the most fun these get, because it makes good use of the gimmick. 5 also has an enemy who can only be killed by making him fall, but I don't like dodging the fireballs this little volcano guy throws while trying to destroy the arena, so 3 is the best of the worst this game has to offer. 81 through 77, Retro Rampage. Yeah, the other arena fights aren't very good either. The Retro Rampage fights have a more charming aesthetic on offer, with a voxel theme that makes the level and enemies look like 3D dot game heroes, and Retro Rampage 3, 4, and 5 do give you power-ups to play with, which gives them a slight edge over the Crumble Rumble levels to me. But the first 2 are still brain dead easy, and 5 is super annoying because it includes a ton of green slime enemies who spit green projectiles at you, but whenever one is killed, it explodes into voxels that cover the stage. That means by the end of the fight, you need to quickly track green projectiles flying at you over a stage that's completely covered in green voxels, and it's just annoying. Not hard, nothing in this game is actually that hard, it's just annoying. As with Crumble Rumble, if all 5 of these were grouped together into a single level, they might rise all the way to being a high D, low C, but as it is, these are completely disposable filler levels that are only worth doing if you're going for the Platinum Trophy. Again, I've grouped these together to keep this list from being too repetitive right at the start, but I've got Retro Rampage 5 at 81, then Retro Rampage 1 at 80, then Retro Rampage 2 at 79, then Retro Rampage 3 at 78, and finally Retro Rampage 4 at 77. 76. To the Beat. And now we move from the awful levels that should have just been cut to the D-tier levels, the ones that I don't think really succeed. They're more bad than good, but I can at least see what they were going for. Spoiler, it's a lot of the challenge levels in this tier. All of the main galaxies in the game, except for the first, include hidden challenge levels referred to as Lost Void levels, each themed around one of the PlayStation controller symbols. Lost Circle Voids, Lost Triangle Voids, and so on. Generally speaking, I think these Lost Void challenge levels fall short of the main levels of the game for 2 reasons. The first is that they indulge in my absolute least favorite 3D platformer trope, the levels just being a bunch of floating platforms in a void. Every 3D platformer feels like it does this, either including challenge levels like this, or sometimes even including main levels like this, and it is my least favorite thing about the genre. To me, half of the reason to play a 3D platformer is the charm of the aesthetic. When you strip that away, it reduces the game to a wireframe, and even if the gameplay itself is still fun, when half of the appeal is seeing cute or funny things on the screen, that means levels without those things can only be half as appealing. It is possible to do this right. I think this is part of why Super Mario Galaxy is such a great game, because while it is a bunch of floating platforms in space, they leaned into the space aesthetic and dressed up their floating platforms in a way that made them charming and memorable. These Astro Bot Void levels, on the other hand, really are just a series of bland platforms floating in a space skybox without much going on. What if you took Astro Bot and completely drained it of all personality, replacing the levels with anonymous voids? No matter how good the platforming is, and some of these void levels do have very good platforming, these levels will suffer from a lack of set dressing in a game where the set dressing is generally so strong. The other problem with the challenge levels is that I'm not sure Astro Bot is really a game that lends itself well to challenge levels. Astro really has a very simple set of moves. This isn't like controlling Mario, where you've got spin jumps and backflips and dives and triple jumps and all sorts of other moves you can chain together to do seemingly impossible feats of platforming. Astro has a jump, he has the laser legs that can extend his jump, and he has whatever power-ups a stage might give him. That's basically it. Having a very simple set of controls is not generally a problem for the game overall. There's something to be said for the elegance of having a very short list of things you can do at a time, and having the complications to the platforming be environmental or from limited power-ups. When we get to these Void challenge levels though, I think a lot of them end up stretching the moveset of Astro too thin, and as a result, just don't feel as satisfying as the challenge levels in, say, Mario Odyssey do. All of that is to say, expect the Void levels to mostly be in the bottom half of this list. What's the worst one though? It's To the Beat. Why? Because, okay, listen. This isn't actually To the Beat, right? Am I crazy? I mean, some of it is, but I swear to God a ton of this timing doesn't feel like it's set to the music at all. Every time I tried to play it by listening to the music and actually platforming to the beat, it didn't work. It got me killed. When I started ignoring the music entirely and just playing based on visual indicators, I was able to do it no problem. I don't know, this is just a baffling level to me. I love rhythm games, but I don't think this works at all. 75. Vertical Velocity. I don't have too much to say about this level. It's this far down on the list because there's this one jump where you're wall running and have to go from one wall to the other that feels unreliable. I swear I would do the exact same thing repeatedly, and sometimes Astro would do the wall jump no problem, and other times he'd fall back to the start or to his death. That really killed this one for me. 74. Rising Heat. Now we've got our first DLC level, one of the speedrun levels added post-launch. Each of these 5 Stellar Speedway stages uses a different power-up, and while the other 4 are all pretty good, this one, Rising Heat, uses the Monkey power-up, which lets you rock climb up a series of grips using the gyro controls. This power-up is fine in the main level where it is used, and I generally like the use of gyro in this game, but for the specific context of speedrun levels where you have to play very fast and flail your controller around while doing so, it just doesn't work very well. If you go into the accessibility controls and turn gyro off, the monkey automatically reaches for the next grip, which just makes this a matter of alternately spamming L2 and R2 as fast as you can, and that trivializes getting the time required for rescuing both bots in this level. But if my best advice for a level is turn off the main feature of the level, then I think that means it's a bad level. 73. Slowdown Showdown. I have 2 gripes with this level. This one is based around using a power-up to slow down time for a moment, letting you cross platforms that would otherwise be moving much too fast. For some reason though, even though there's already a time-slowing power-up in the game that you control at will, this level comes up with hourglasses that never show up anywhere else, which are thrown to stop time. I don't get it. I don't know why they came up with a slightly different power-up for this one level, and one that feels much more clumsy to use at that. The other problem is that if you freeze time and the platforms just happen to be in the wrong position, that can basically kill a run. You could technically stop, wait for the time freeze to end, and then throw the respawn to Hourglass in order to get another try, but that's a bad solution because it kills the pacing of the level, where if they'd just given you the regular power-up, you could simply hit a button to unfreeze time and try again immediately. Plus, this void level is in the final galaxy of the game, and by this point the game has trained you so well to never stop moving during these void levels that I doubt most players will even think to do so. This feeling of the platforms being slightly different each time you freeze them wouldn't be an issue if Astro Bot were a game with a wider moveset. This is what I was talking about, where Mario has all sorts of moves at his disposal to adjust trajectory in mid-air, to do a longer jump if necessary, and to move more quickly in general, and Astro simply doesn't. This is probably the best example of what I mean when I say some of these challenge levels spread the moveset a bit too thin and end up exposing the things that the game is weak at instead of leaning into its strengths. The final platforming section is just long enough that you'll likely run out of power-up time in mid-air while jumping towards the final trampoline that takes you to the end of the level. But because Astro's moveset is limited, there's no strategy to go any faster, like doing a dive or something like that. Astro can only move so fast, so your only option is just to get good and move without hesitating at all, which is a problem when you also need to hesitate to make sure the platforms freeze in the correct position. It feels clumsy and random, which is the opposite of what you want in this kind of game. 72. Pumpkin Peril. We're getting to the levels now that have crawled their way out of being bad and have landed in the mediocre zone, which makes a lot of them hard to talk about because they're just kind of generically mid-derogatory. The gimmick to Pumpkin Peril, if you can call it that, is that you've got a lot of the pumpkin enemies shooting projectiles at you as you platform through the level. There's nothing bad enough to be interesting, but I'd still rather play it than any of the levels I've already talked about, so here it sits. 71. Swinging Sentries. See above, this one is very basic. You've got these skull guys swinging around and you have to avoid them, but also never stop moving, because most of the level is made up of falling ice that breaks as soon as you step on it. Look before you leap to get the timing on these guys swinging, and never stop moving or you die is a bad combination. This is not a good level. 70. Cut and Grind. This is in the over before it starts category. You dodge some buzzsaw enemies and you grind on some rails. I like rail grinding. It's not unpleasant to play, it's just very, very short, even by the standards of the Void levels. 69. Splashing Sprint. Splashing Sprint is another Void level, this time based on using a rubber duck power-up that sprays water to create a path across burning lava and put out fires while avoiding enemies. It's a decent idea, but the execution is just okay at best. 68. Birdie Barrage. High D, low C tier ends up being the levels that are fine, but which are too basic. This one, Birdie Barrage, has you playing jump rope with birds being fired out of cannons at you. That's about all there is to this one. 67. Shocking Behavior. Shocking Behavior, on the other hand, is playing jump rope with electricity instead of birds. It's a completely different genus. The crumbling ice in this level makes it a bit more interesting than Birdie Barrage, but these are both Void levels in the Feather Cluster Galaxy, which means you'll probably end up playing them close to back, and both levels suffer because of that. 66. Bubbling Under. And here we are, the first full, non-bonus level in the game, Bubbling Under. It's the only full level that I would say I don't like very much. The only thing which makes this level special is the Penguin power-up, which only appears here and in the Holiday bonus level. The Penguin power-up lets you swim quickly, which you'll need since this level is primarily set underwater. You'll never guess what the problem with the water level in a video game is. The swimming doesn't feel great. I actually think the regular non-power-up swimming feels better in this game than using the Penguin power-up does. You go so fast with it that you lose a lot of control over your direction, and it just feels clumsy. This is the first pseudo-open level on this list, too. Astro Bot has a few of these, where rather than giving you a strict path through the level, you are given a wide open space to explore however you like. This one actually feels a bit too open though, with points of interest easy to overlook, especially when you're penguin swimming at roughly the same speed Doom Guy runs. Everything else in this level is done better somewhere else. There's a part where you get eaten by a dragon thing and have to go inside his belly to rescue a bot. That's fun. There's a better version of this idea in Wormy Passage though. The bulk of the level is hitting locks on chains to free a giant starfish, which is also fun, but was better executed in the level Free Big Brother. Both Wormy Passage and Free Big Brother come before this level, so by the time you reach it, neither of those things will be super novel. Is there anything I particularly like in this level? Hitting the sea anemones to make them spit out chests is fun. Oh, and one of the special bots you can rescue in this level is Octodad. I love Octodad. If Octodad were an Astro Bot level, he would be in the top 10 of this list, but unfortunately he's not, so Bubbling Under comes in at the very top of D tier. 65. Boing Bonanza. And now we move into the C tier. These are the levels where I start nodding my head and going, yeah, that level was pretty good. Boing Bonanza is another, you'll never guess, Void level, with this one's gimmick being these wavy tube men who you can compress and stretch out by pressing L2 or R2. Really, these are just moving platforms you can control with the press of a button. The wavy tube men are great aesthetically, but as a gameplay gimmick, they aren't my favorite, even in the full level featuring them, and I don't think they lend themselves well to a challenge level. Needing to hit L2 or R2 while trying to quickly move through a series of difficult platforms is just a bit like needing to pat your head and rub your belly. It gives you one too many things to focus on in a game that doesn't use this mechanic enough for you to really internalize it, and for it to become an invisible part of the controls. I never reached a point where I was doing this without thinking about it. It's not really hard enough for you to need to learn this mechanic that well, and that makes it lacking as a challenge level, in my opinion. 64. Ropeway Rally. Okay, listen. What if there was a Void level with rope swings? 63. Magnetic Mayhem. Okay, I do like this one. You get a magnet to hold and can use it to collect caltrops on the stage that would otherwise kill you, and then throw those caltrops at enemies. Solid platforming, decent gimmick, we're getting to the Void levels, I don't mind now. 62. Rolling Rampage. Yeah, this one's pretty good too. Rolling Rampage is a really short one, which holds it back a bit, but it's got a good idea. You're avoiding these spike balls, and some of them are on platforms that tilt in the direction you're standing, so you have to get them to roll at you, and then jump over them before they hit you. It's good, but still pretty simple. 61. Fragile Frenzy. Now see, this is what I'm talking about when I say there's an elegance to your character having a very basic moveset and the complications coming from the environment. Fragile Frenzy requires sparing and very careful use of Astro's laser legs, which in the game in general you'll be using all the time. Most of the platforms you'll be crossing in this level will break if Astro's laser legs hit them, so you need to either platform without using them at all, or be careful to stop using them before you actually cross onto the platform, trusting that Astro's momentum will get you where you need to go. That is good platforming. That's what a good platformer challenge level looks like, in my opinion, since it requires the player to understand exactly how their character's movement options work, and to get a feel for the momentum of their character. As far as the void levels go, this is excellent. 60. Dashing Dillo. Dashing Dillo is another one of the good void levels. There are a few of these stages which have you rolling around on an armadillo, and I generally like these. I think controlling Astro on the armadillo is fun. This is probably the most challenging of these armadillo levels, and I think there's a couple points that tip a bit closer to frustration than fun, but overall pretty good. 59. Rolling Star Sola. Rolling Star Sola is the first of these armadillo levels in the game. Although not a void level, it's just a regular optional level like Crumble Rumble or Retro Rampage. This one is just a bit too short. It's kind of got the over before it starts problem, although not as bad as Cut and Grind or any of the arena levels. Definitely fun though. It controls differently, but the vibes of this level and of Rolling Star Luna kind of remind me of playing Billy Hatcher as a kid. Good times. 58. Follow the Light. Okay, we're almost out of void levels to talk about, but this is definitely one of the good ones. Follow the Light's gimmick is that it uses a light bulb power-up, which reveals invisible platforms when you get close to them while holding it. First of all, I think that makes for a good challenge level, because it's testing something specific. Without the ability to see what exactly is coming up ahead of you, how quickly can you adjust your platforming to hit your targets? I also think this is the singular case where having the level be in a completely blank void works in its favor, because you're supposed to be in inky black darkness, so it makes sense and actually fits the theme of the level. 57. Hieroglyph Pyramid. Astro Bot's 4th galaxy, Camo Cosmos, is the weakest set of the levels overall. Bubbling Under, which we've already talked about, is in Camo Cosmos, and now we have Hieroglyph Pyramid, the second main level on this list. First off, there is a lot to like about this level. The idea with this one is that you start right in front of the stage exit, but then end up knocked into the bottom of a pit and have to climb your way up out of it. The Egyptian aesthetic in this level is great. It's a ton of fun to run around and look at things. This is the first appearance of this ball power-up, which gives Astro armor that you can retreat into. This is basically the Morph Ball power-up from Metroid, but it also makes you invincible to damage while you're in ball form. Putting the Morph Ball into a game that's not a Metroidvania, but a more traditional platformer is a fun idea, and they use it well. There are some really good individual moments, like when you find the Lara Croft VIP bot sneaking under some falling block enemies and have to walk quietly by only partially pushing the stick in order to sneak like she is. I also love these vacuum enemies that only show up when you've got the Morph Ball power-up. You beat them by getting vacuumed up while in ball form, and if you do get killed by them, they look so happy and proud. It's adorable. The only thing holding this level back is that its layout is a bit confusing. There's a lot of double switchbacks and corners you can miss, and compared to the other levels of Astro Bot, which feel really well designed, it leaves something to be desired. When I missed something in most levels of Astro Bot and went back to find it, it was generally because it was hidden in some clever, fun way. This is a very linear level though, so the little nooks and crannies they've hidden things in feel worse to me. Having a linear level with a ton of little pockets, which look like they could lead to larger routes but then don't, means the whole level comes off as oddly meandering. It's not a bad level, but we're getting into the good levels, so it doesn't make it any higher than this. 56. Rolling Star Luna. Rolling Star Luna is a better version of Rolling Star Sola. It's longer and a bit more involved with some tricky parts, so I like it more. Aside from that though, there's not much more to say. 55. Wormy Passage. We're getting to the point where pretty much every level we have left is a lot of fun to play, because Astro Bot controls well and is a fun game to play with good level design. So what's really going to be the deciding factor for how high a lot of these levels make it is how interesting and well executed their theme is. Wormy Passage is, sadly, not that memorable. It's a cave level with the Frog Punch power-up, and a bunch of these worm enemies you take out by punching their mouths and then pulling them out of the dirt. The coolest part of this level is the very end, where you get eaten by a giant worm right before reaching the exit, and then have to quickly platform your way out of the worm as rising acid approaches to digest you. This is a cool set piece, but I can't help but think it would be cooler if the whole level were inside the worm. That would have set it apart more, especially since there are better cave levels in the game, like Funky Fungi, which we'll see further down this list. 54. Balloon Breeze. Balloon Breeze is another Camo Cosmos level that leaves something to be desired. This level showcases the Squid Balloon power-up, which lets Astro inflate like a balloon and let air out to quickly descend. The Squid Balloon power-up is fun and shows up in a few levels of the game, but here it ends up holding the level back somewhat. This level is about using that balloon power-up to float to distant platforms, but because of that, the level feels so wide and spread out that it ends up feeling weirdly empty. There's too much empty space here, the points of interest are too far apart, and that doesn't quite feel right. Some of the levels in this game also have hidden exits which lead to secret levels, and I like how this one is hidden quite a bit. There's a really distant flower pot you can just barely make it to. It hits that great feeling of wondering if you can reach something you're not quite sure about, and then feeling amazing when you realize that you can. What really pulls this level up is how it looks. Floating from flower pot to flower pot, climbing giant plants and gardening tools, and landing on big balloons is fun. This level also has the return of Big Brother, who helps you through the level. We haven't talked about the level where Big Brother is introduced on this list yet, but it was definitely fun to see him again. 53. Sky Garden. And here we have the very first level of the game, Sky Garden. This level is very straightforward, and as a result, it ends up being pretty middle of the pack, but that's what you want from the first level of a game, since it's there to set the tone and to let players familiarize themselves with the controls. It's very good at both of those things. It's flamingo themed, but it's specifically lawn flamingo themed, even though the flamingos themselves are alive, they're robots, everything is robots, since the environment is very much evoking the trimmed lawns of suburbia. You get the Squid Balloon power-up here, which is a nice easy one to teach players how the power-ups work. Just a pleasant time, a level of median quality which sets the tone well for what's to come. Mid complimentary. 52. Aztec Trail. We're essentially still in the tutorial here, as this Aztec-themed level shows off some of the game's fun gimmicks. This is the first level where these push plate walls show up. I like these. They make good use of the controller's features, since the way you are supposed to do them is by quickly pressing against the wall and running from side to side until you feel one of the plates cause the controller to rumble. This is a good idea, but I will say that it's not immediately intuitive what you're looking for, especially since the floor versions of these plates are sound-based, with a different sound coming out of the controller, rather than the walls, which rumble differently. I wish the wall and floor versions of these plates worked the same way, but that is a relatively minor nitpick. The power-up for this level is the Frog Punch one, which lets you use ARMS-esque telescoping boxing gloves by pushing the L2 or R2 buttons, with L2 throwing a left punch and R2 throwing a right punch. I like this power-up. They use it in some clever ways, like punching sticky paint rollers to Spider-Man across gaps. There are Matryoshka doll enemies in this level, which I find fun to fight, as they keep splitting apart to reveal smaller and smaller enemies. A minor complaint is that I think the secret exit in this level is probably my least favorite one in the game. It's hidden behind this wall where you have to punch 4 torches in order to destroy them, which I don't find especially intuitive. When I see torches on a wall, my first thought isn't, I should punch those. The theme is strong here too. It leans into Astro Bot's everything is robots aesthetic by having the platforms and Aztec-esque architecture covered in microchip patterns, and the level ends with Astro in a boxing match against several enemies, with chimps sitting on one side of the ring and lemurs sitting on the other, which is a fun final note to end the level on. 51. Frozen Meal. I describe the level Frozen Meal as astrobot.txt. This is a very straightforward, very simple level. It's fun, but it feels like it could have been in any 3D platformer with nothing about it screaming Astro Bot. The big set piece here is that as you're about to reach the exit, a giant snowman eats it, and then you have to make your way to him and knock him apart while he tries to blow you away in order to finish the level. I don't like this snowman. I don't like him. He doesn't look like an Astro Bot character to me. I'm not sure why he has these weird Simpsons eyes instead of the LED eye panels most of the characters in the game do. Some of the bosses have cartoony eyes like this, but they read better to me on those character designs. I don't know, I just don't like this guy. There are some cute details, like the ice blocks you're platforming across being in the shape of food, but there are better snow levels in the game. Honestly, this might rate higher if it were earlier in the game. It's in the Feather Cluster, the final set of levels in the game, so feeling this basic this late is unsatisfying to me. My favorite thing about this level is that it has my favorite secret exit in the game. Near the end of the level, there's a snowball you can knock off of a platform and into the snowbank below. Rolling it around, it'll get bigger and bigger, and you can then position it as a platform, letting you reach an otherwise inaccessible area where you can find the secret exit in a sauna for penguins. Adorable. 50. Creamy Canyon. Speaking of better snow levels, Creamy Canyon is an ice cream themed level right near the start of the game in the Gorilla Nebula, and it was the second level I played immediately following Sky Garden. The actual platforming is still pretty basic this early on, but the aesthetic here is really strong and carries the level a long way. Being so early in the game, this ice cream level tells you you're not just playing the most bog standard platformer levels possible, and we'll have some weird ones mixed in here with the jungles, lava chasms, snowy mountains, and deserts you'd expect. This level makes it this high on charm of the environmental design alone. I love that the platforms are waffle cones. I love that the mountain peaks in the skybox are ice cream peaks. I love running through the sprinkles and hearing them rattle around from my controller. It's a great early level and a lot of fun to explore. 49. Rocket Pull Power. Rocket Pull Power is the first level from the Lost Galaxy on this list. This optional galaxy in the game contains the levels you're unlocking by finding those secret exits in levels throughout the game, and all of the secret levels are pretty good. This one uses the Rocket Chicken power-up, which lets you rapidly ascend at the push of a button, and if you're holding onto chains, lets you pull them up with you to destroy enemies or pull objects out of the floor. Really fun gameplay here, although the theme leaves a little bit to be desired. It's hot and cold themed, but well, I've seen that done better in other 3D platformers, specifically Mario Galaxy, so it's nothing to write home about. My favorite bits here are these fuses you have to light within parts of the environment and then quickly escape before blowing yourself up. There's a mini-boss at the end, one of the giant block dudes, who you can get inside of and then light a fuse, trying to escape while he's still rolling around. It's a cool idea. 48. High Suction Hero. High Suction Hero is another Lost Galaxy secret level. This one uses the elephant power-up, which lets you vacuum up certain liquids in order to turn them into platforms which behave in different ways. Gray liquid creates concrete platforms that behave completely normally, blue liquids create sloped ice bridges you can quickly slide across, and orange liquids create trampolines made of honey, which can bounce you higher. The downside to this level is that while it's not one of the Lost Void levels, it is still just kind of set in a generic space skybox. It just feels like a bunch of platforms floating in nothingness, and you know how I feel about that. The thing that makes this level stand out despite the lack of an aesthetic is a section at the very end where you are given multiple liquids to choose from and can get across a large gap in any way you choose. I like that the game gets just a little bit sandboxy here for a bit, although it does make me wish the whole level had been like that and not just one short section. 47. Helium Heights. Helium Heights is the second speedrun level on this list, and while it's miles above the monkey one, I still don't think the squid balloon power-up really makes for a great speedrun challenge. It's an inherently slow power to use, since it involves floating, which is not an especially fast action, and that makes it feel a bit awkward here. It's a little funny that there's no penguin power-up speedrun level, because that power-up felt very awkward to use in a regular open-worldish map because of how fast you were and how easy it was to overshoot things, but those same qualities would probably make it pretty fun for a speedrun level. Meanwhile, a power-up that's great for regular platforming, like the balloon, makes it into a speedrun level where it ends up feeling off. Oh well. 46. Orbital Blitz. Okay, see, this one gets away with being set in space because much like Mario Galaxy, it's actually set in space. Orbital Blitz is space-themed, jumping from bit of space station to bit of space station, and between giant floating rocks and all sorts of stuff. It's even got a cute alien abduction theme, with these astronaut dogs appearing throughout the level, and some of them even accidentally getting caught in a tractor beam by Uberfoe, the mini-boss you fight at the end of the level, when he was only intending to abduct the exit flag. You get the rocket chicken power-up here, which is always fun to use, and then fight Uberfoe at the end by waiting until he stops moving, weaving between enemies and explosives, and rocketing up into him 3 times. Solid level, solid use of the space theme, no complaints here. 45. Fan Club. Fan Club is the secret level where those wavy tube men I mentioned in a Void level earlier in the list come from. As mentioned previously, they're really just moving platforms that you control with the push of L2 or R2 with a very fun skin placed over them. These work a lot better here, where there's less pressure on the player to execute the level quickly, and you have more time to explore. Unfortunately, beyond the fun theme, I still think the gimmick of the level mechanically is kind of middling, and that means this level can only make it so high up a list that's getting more and more competitive as we go along. 44. Funky Fungi. Funky Fungi is the better cave level I mentioned earlier. There's not too much to talk about here. It's a better wormy passage, really good aesthetic with these dancing fungi all over the place. I love watching them dance. It's a very chill level, one of the earlier Lost Galaxy secret levels you're likely to unlock. Fun to play, cute aesthetic, chill vibe, a perfect way to close out C tier. 43. Credits Clash. Now we move into the B tier levels. These are the levels that I consider to be pretty great, with either no issues I can think of, or only minor issues that barely get in the way of the things that are so great about them. There are 2 levels on this list which are really hard to classify, being non-standard levels that appear as part of the game's ending sequence. The first one on this list is Credits Clash, which is only kind of a level. It's actually the game's end credits sequence, which in a Super Smash Bros. Or Splatoon-like fashion, gives you something to do while the initial credits roll. It was a little bit hard to figure out where to put this. It is classified as its own level by the game, one of 3 levels in the Deja Vu Dimension Galaxy which unlocks after you beat the game, but it's also not really a level, it's the credits. There's no gameplay challenge here at all, it is only its theme. But this level isn't trying to be a serious platformer level. It's not trying to be challenging, it's trying to be a fun and charming presentation of credits. I love credit sequences like that. I love the credits in Smash Bros. Or Splatoon or Bayonetta, and I'd take them over a standard credits scroll any day. I think this hits its target very well. This is a fun sequence. It even has a unique power-up, a minigun, that only appears in this level, which is wild. So, since I find it charming and fun, it has made its way surprisingly high up this list at the start of the B tier. 42. Cockadoodle Doom. The third piece of free DLC for Astro Bot contained a new system called Vicious Void, not to be confused with the Lost Void challenge levels we've been talking about throughout this list so far. These are more speedrun levels like the ones from the first update, Stellar Speedway, with the gimmick this time being that these levels are supposed to be among the hardest in the game. All of these levels are pretty good, but I don't think any of them are outstanding. One thing I really like about these levels, as opposed to most of the challenge levels in the game, is that despite the system being called Vicious Void, they aren't just set in empty voids, they have recognizable backdrops and themes. Like the Stellar Speedway levels, each of the Vicious Void levels uses a different power-up. The first one on this list, Cockadoodle Doom, uses the rocket chicken that shoots you sky high. Cockadoodle Doom is the lowest of the Vicious Void levels on this list, simply because I don't like using the rocket chicken quite as much as the other power-ups they used here, but it's a very solid level, providing a fun challenge for those who have already played a lot of the game. 41. Trapped in Time. Trapped in Time is a really neat one, set inside of a giant hourglass starting at the base and making your way up the ruins partially submerged in sand to try to make your way through the neck of the hourglass into the top section where the exit awaits. This is likely the first time you'll see the rocket chicken power-up. Placing it here in a level that's about scaling up some ruins is a fun idea. This level is in the game's third galaxy, so the platforming is getting a little more involved, with some tricky jumps here and there, and some surprisingly devilish enemy placements. While not the absolute best the game has to offer, solid gameplay and solid visuals make for a very fun level. 40. Thrust or Bust. This is the second of the Vicious Void levels on the list, and certainly the most ambitious of them. This one uses the Bulldog power-up that rockets you forward instead of upwards. This level contains a new type of hazard, a beehive platform with bee stingers popping out of it in a wave motion. I wasn't expecting these new levels to introduce a completely new hazard like this, so it was a nice surprise. The level is good and challenging, and the Bulldog power-up is fun to use in a speedrun level like this. The only thing I'd knock it for slightly is that Stellar Speedway also included a Bulldog level, one which I like a bit more than this, and it's a bit disappointing to see these post-game challenge levels repeat a power-up when power-ups like the Penguin or the Mouse still haven't received their own. This is compounded by the fact that there are already a lot of Bulldog levels in the main game, so it might have been nice to see a different power-up get the spotlight here. Still, it's a fun, challenging level that I like a whole lot. 39. Ginny's Revenge. Now, this is an interesting one. There's only one boss in this game who also has an optional hard mode rematch level, and surprisingly, it's not any of the main bosses at the end of each galaxy. Rather, Ginny's Revenge is a hard mode for the Genie boss from a level we'll see higher up on this list, Ginny of the Lamp. The standard version of the fight involves using the Bulldog power-up, which is the horizontal rocket dash counterpart to the Rocket Chicken's vertical rocket jump. To dodge flaming skulls the Ginny throws at you, take out or avoid enemies, and eventually knock giant gold skulls back at the Genie to damage him. This hard mode version of the fight has more flaming skulls thrown at you, and has more challenging enemies spawn in, but the really tricky thing about it is that the arena is changed from regular ground to ice, which Astro skates across. This means you will be in constant rapid motion throughout the entire fight, which makes things a lot trickier. This is among the harder of the non-void levels in the game, but it's a lot of fun because of it. You could even make an argument that it's harder than any of the Galaxy End bosses, because those fights give the player 2 extra hearts, functioning as extra lives, so you can make 2 mistakes without the fight resetting to the beginning. Ginny's Revenge has no such extra health, so you'll have to make it through all 3 phases of the fight without ever slipping up, or you'll end up back at the start. I respect that they didn't feel the need to put hard modes in for every boss fight in the game. If they didn't feel like they had any extra ideas for how to make those fights more challenging in a fun way. This level being so fun does make me wish we'd seen hard modes of at least a few of the other bosses in the game though, especially since the regular Genie boss fight is far from my favorite boss fight in the game. So harder versions of some of the bosses I already liked a lot could have been amazing. Maybe they'll do rematch fights as another DLC add-on, who knows, but if not, this one hard mode fight is still a great addition to the game. 38. Armored Hardcore. This is another Vicious Void level, this time using the ball power-up. There are some really devious and tricky sections here, requiring you to land on moving launch pads while in the ball form, requiring you to switch back and forth quickly to take enemies out while surviving flame jets in the ball form, requiring you to carefully dodge a buzzsaw enemy on a narrow platform. This one is an all-around good time, and it's fun to see one of those speedrun challenge levels using one of the weirder powers in the game. 37. Spring-Loaded Run. And we've got another Stellar Speedway level to talk about. Spring-Loaded Run uses the Frog Punch power-up primarily to Spider-Man your way from paint roller to paint roller. It's a fun one. I'm actually surprised there's no Spider-Man themed level in this game, since they already had this Diet Spider-Man power-up in the game, but instead of web slinging, we got frog swinging, and I can't complain about how ridiculous that is. 36. Hard to Bear. This Vicious Void level uses a power-up I haven't talked about yet, a bear who sits on your back with 2 symbols, which causes elements of the level to change when you hit both R2 and L2 and clang them together. This is one of the rarer power-ups in the game, appearing in only 3 levels, only one of which is from the vanilla game. This level ends up being a real delight because the other levels with the symbol power-up aren't particularly focused on challenging platforming, so they end up using it as more of a fun toy to play around with in the level. Here though, we see that this power-up can add a fun element of challenge, with you needing to hit the symbols while in midair to create a platform or defeat an enemy before you land on it. Fun, challenging, and nice to see a rare power-up used in a new way, this level ends up being very strong. 35. TikTok Shock. And now the final of the Vicious Void levels. TikTok Shock makes it highest just because it's a speedrun level using what I've realized is my favorite power-up in the game, the Time Slowdown power-up that looks like a PSVR headset. Most of the levels with this time slowing mechanic are still higher up on this list, but suffice to say, they're always a blast to play. This one is also fun because it combines that power-up with the slippy slidey ice level archetype, which feels exceptionally smooth to play in Astro Bot. Overall, while I don't think any of the levels added in Vicious Void are among the best the game has to offer, it's an incredibly consistent piece of content, which added a lot of strong levels to the lineup. 34. Great Master Challenge. Alright, finally we've reached the last Void level. Both the last one on this list, in that it's the highest any of these challenge levels will make it, and in that it's the final secret level in the game. Unlocking this level requires 100%ing the game. You need to not only beat every level of the game, but also collect all of the optional bots to bring them back home to the hub world, and collect all of the puzzle pieces hidden throughout the levels of the game. Getting all of the puzzle pieces adds a giant gold statue to the hub world with a prompt to build a tower of 300 bots, which pre-DLC would have been every available bot in the game, minus the one at the end of this level, although the 3 pieces of DLC have actually brought that total up to 323, and 4 bots which can be imported from playing the Astro's Playroom DLC, released to hype up the new game's release, which brings that total up to 327. This is by far the best challenge level in the game. It's difficult, but it doesn't feel unfair or random. It combines elements from many of the other challenge levels, like crumbling floors, jumping rope over enemy attacks, and these little guys that attach to you and force you to do a spin attack in order to shake them off before they explode. The final sequence has you avoiding enemies being shot at you in X, circle, triangle, and square patterns, which is fun given the game's overall PlayStation focus. This is what a challenge level should be. It's a great final exam for how well you've learned everything the game has demanded of you throughout the entire experience up to this point. It also hits exactly what I was talking about earlier, taking advantage of Astro's limited moveset by adding complexity through enemies and environmental hazards, not from expecting you to know how to perform a specific complicated move, which is a valid approach to platformer difficulty. Honestly, this level being so good makes me more annoyed at how aggressively underwhelming most of the challenge levels are, by contrast. Aesthetically, I mean, it's another Void level. The entrance to the level is unique and looks really cool, and it's fun having all 4 of the symbol characters and their corresponding platforms from the other Void levels appear at once, but aside from that, there's nothing really special to it. Oh, at the end, you do unlock one final VIP bot, Chop Chop Master Onion from Parappa the Rapper, so that's cute. If this were the only level in the game with this kind of bland aesthetic, it would still be a bummer, but it would be less of a bummer. As it is, this is the 17th level with this exact same lack of personality, and so by the time I reach this level, I'm just so tired of jumping on generic colorful platforms in an anonymous void that it just annoys me. But the gameplay being very strong does manage to make up for that. 33. Building Speed. Now we've got another Stellar Speedway level to talk about, Building Speed, the 4th of the 5 to make their way onto this list so far. Oh man, I wonder what the 5th one could be. This speedrun level uses the Bulldog power-up, which is a perfect fit for a speedrun level. You can cut a lot of corners here, and it's fun to figure out your own little skips to make it through the level just that little bit faster. There are only 2 of these speedrun levels where, after getting the required times for the collectible bots, I could really see myself going back and having fun trying to improve my times, and it's this one and the mystery 5th one that we haven't talked about yet. Ooh, which one could it be? 32. Mighty Chewy. And now we have the first main boss fight on this list, and the first main boss fight in the game in general. Some individual levels have boss fights at the end of them, like Ginny of the Lamp, but each galaxy ends with a proper big boss fight, followed by a PlayStation-themed level to close the galaxy off. The first boss fight is against Mighty Chewy, a King Kong-esque giant gorilla. This fight uses the Bulldog power-up and involves dodging through glass sections of walls as Chewy tries to sweep you off the field, platforming from section to section as the boss throws steel girders at you, and even dashing from one half of the platform to the other as he pulls it apart at one point. You damage Mighty Chewy similarly to how you damaged the genie in that fight, but instead of skulls, here Mighty Chewy uses giant gold bells to send shockwaves across the arena. You need to jump over the shockwaves and Bulldog slam the bell to knock his face down, then punch him in the eyes to deal real damage. One charming detail about the game's bosses is how it represents boss health, in this case with Chewy's eyes going red once you've damaged one of them. For Chewy's final phase, he'll wisely stop using the bells and start chomping the platform with his teeth to send shockwaves instead, and you have to use the Bulldog Dash to knock all of his teeth out to finish the fight. I find the aesthetic of this level really fun. First off, I love the neon Gorilla La Land sign you can see at the entrance, and the neon signs he uses to try to sweep you off the platform are also great. It's very Donkey Kong, having a gorilla boss be construction themed, and I have to imagine that's deliberate. I don't have a bad thing to say about any of the boss fights, to be honest. It's just a matter of which ones I liked more than the others, and I think Mighty Chewy ends up being my least favorite of them, despite still being a great time. We've still got a lot of fun stuff ahead. 31.
Danger Door.
We've got another secret level here, Danger Dojo. This one is ninja themed, involving gyro aiming with the controller to throw shuriken at targets. There's one bit, for example, where you see a bunch of bamboo shoots you can throw shuriken at, and in order to get a collectible off to the side, you have to shoot them in such a way that you make stair-step platforms to reach it. Very clever. I'm going to take this level as an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite things about Astro Bot overall. Going forward, a lot of the levels are going to be this high because I feel they make really good use of the hardware, specifically the DualSense controller hardware. Astro Bot is not just a great 3D platformer, it's a game which makes full use of the features on the PS5, and that matters to me because there are sparingly few games that actually do that. I bought a PS5, so I would like the PS5 games I play to actually use the PS5's unique features, because otherwise, why am I not just playing these games on PC or PS4? I am pro gyro aiming, for the record. Gyro aiming is great for making subtle adjustments to your aim, while stick aiming is great for wide sweeping movements. Together, they actually result in something that approaches the precision you get with mouse aim. So yeah, while this isn't a shooter, Astro Bot using gyro aim sparingly at points like this is great. Astro Bot also makes great use of the DualSense controller's haptics, or HD rumble, or whatever you want to call it. It's very cool that you can literally feel the different texture of the platforms that Astro is running over based on the texture of the rumble in your hands each time he takes a step. It is one of those little things that subconsciously adds to the experience and makes the whole game feel better, even if you don't realize why in the moment. Astro Bot even makes good use of the speaker in the controller. Can you imagine such a thing? Finding a way to use the worst feature of modern controllers, the speaker in them, and actually using it well? Astro Bot will often play sounds that are extremely close to the player character out of the controller's speaker, like here, where you run over sliced bamboo shoots and hear the hollow noise of them coming from your hands instead of the TV. It's good. It feels good in the moment, like something that actually subtly adds to the immersion of the experience, and not just a dumb, poorly thought out gimmick, like making the police sirens in GTA come out of the controller instead of the TV, a feature that actively makes the game worse. To put this in perspective, I can literally think of 2 games that have ever used a controller speaker well, and this is one of them. All of these controller features are little things, none of them are revelatory on their own, but I am all about the little things in games, and I think the little things are what separate the good games from the great games, and Astro Bot has 1,000 little touches like that, which elevate the experience to true greatness. 30. Luna Sola. Luna Sola is a late game level that has the best of both worlds, a fun gameplay gimmick and a fun aesthetic. The gimmick is that you're hitting buttons that change the world from day to night and shift the entire level's platforms to turn them on their sides. They use this in fun ways, and often to hide secrets in tricky places. The aesthetic is that everything is made of toys and building blocks, which is an idea that I've seen pop up in other games plenty of times, but it's still always fun. Here, it's specifically very reminiscent of Little Big Planet, to the point where as soon as I landed in this level, I literally said out loud to my wife, I bet Sackboy is one of the special bots in this level, and what do you know, I was right. I love these googly-eyed dinosaurs whose eyes follow you throughout the whole level. I love these weird floating Minecraft blocks. I love that the sun and moon are on a big rail in the back of the level and you see them rotate whenever you hit a switch, and that you're getting closer and closer to them throughout the level, eventually ending the level on the moon itself. Overall, great level. 29. Cannon Brawl. Next up, we have one of 2 pirate-themed levels in the game, each of which end in a boss fight against a skeleton pirate. This one has the worst level, but the better boss fight at the end. The level itself is basically just another lava level, and since this is towards the end of the game, we've seen a few of those at this point. What sets this one apart are all of the pirate ships partially submerged in lava, which sink as you cross them. This is another Morph Ball power-up level, and those are always a treat. This one also has these evil volcano enemies who can only be defeated by jumping into them while in the Morph Ball, which causes them to explode. I like that this level really exists to tutorialize how you're going to handle one of the attacks of the boss of this galaxy, this Gatling gun ability, which both the volcano enemies and the pirate boss of the level have. The level boss here, Captain Shortfuse, actually plays very similarly to the boss at the end of this galaxy, so it's something of a practice run, as you have to use the Morph Ball to avoid taking damage from his rapid-fire attack, making your way past enemies and across platforms to friendly volcanoes on either side of the arena, which will rocket you into the boss's face to deal damage. It's a fun level and a really fun boss fight. What more can you ask for? 28. Apes on the Loose. Finally, we've reached our first PlayStation-themed level on this list, which also happens to be the first one in the game. After you defeat each galaxy boss, you end up rescuing a special bot based on a game from PlayStation's history, and then get a follow-up level which plays like a micro version of that game. To Astro Bot's credit, these levels aren't just used as a way to advertise whatever the big PlayStation series running right now are. In fact, only 2 of the 5 themed levels are based on series which are actively ongoing, with the other 3 being based on PS1, PSP, and PS3 games, respectively. The first of these levels, Apes on the Loose, is based on the PS1 classic Ape Escape. I have never played Ape Escape. That is going to color my enjoyment of this level because, frankly, I don't have any nostalgia for the original game. I could see an Ape Escape fan telling me that this is their favorite level in the game, and I totally get it, but that isn't me. I'm playing this level in a vacuum. I don't know who these characters are beyond just vague recognition of the main dude from Ape Escape, and of course the design of the apes themselves. Thankfully, this level holds up well in a vacuum. You get the net at the beginning of the level, which serves as a special power-up tied to this one level, and turn into the Ape Escape dude yourself. Then you run around the level, chase down apes, sometimes corner them, and catch them in your net. It's a good time. There's also a hidden trophy here to capture a golden butterfly hidden in the level. I have no idea if that's a reference to the original game, but I assume it is. Another great detail about these PlayStation-themed levels is that each of them have an Astro Botified version of recognizable music from the original game as the level's theme. This level's music is called Spikebot, although granted, I'm only assuming this is Ape Escape music because the levels based on games I have played are definitely recognizable remixes of tracks from those games. Overall, this level is a ton of fun, and if I were an Ape Escape fan, I suspect this would be much higher on this list. Ape Escape fans, feel free to sound off in the comments about how this level hit you. I'd love to hear it. 27. Dude Rating. And now we go from a PlayStation-themed level where I haven't played the game it's based on, and that makes me like it less, to a PlayStation-themed level where I have played the game it's based on, and that makes me like it less. We don't need to litigate my feelings on the Uncharted series here. I'm not the one on trial today. Just know that I've played and beaten all 4 main games in the series, and they're okay. I know some of you might think that's a bad opinion, but I played all 4 of them and I even platinumed the first, so safe to say it's my bad opinion and I came by it honestly. Why did I platinum a game I don't like that much? Listen, depression is a hell of a drug. That's all I have to say in my defense. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Dude Rating. This is a fun level. First of all, it's called Dude Rating, which is a reference I find super charming. If you weren't playing games at the time, the big joke people would make when the first Uncharted game came out in 2007 was that it's Tomb Raider, but with a dude. It's Dude Raider. I heard the term Dude Raider so many times, circa 07-08. Seeing a reference that specific, not to the game itself, but to the culture surrounding the game from that time, put a smile on my face. That is the sort of reference you make because you have a lot of fondness for games and the conversations that were happening around those games nearly 20 years ago, just like I do. The level itself is super cute. The unique power-up for it is a gun, specifically a toy pop gun you can use to take enemies out. This level is most inspired by the first Uncharted game, Drake's Fortune, which is the one that takes place entirely in a jungle, and that's the Uncharted game I have the most affection for because it's the one I played the most of. I love the background music, here called Drake's Botchin. which is a pun that only works when you read it, not when it's said out loud. I like the trophy here to collect all 3 secret eggs, like collecting treasures in the original game. I like the secret where you need to shoot the sculpted faces on these pillars in order to make all of their faces hearts. I like going inside the turtle temple's mouth, and this bit with the rolling boulder feels really good. They timed it just perfectly, so the whole time it feels like you're just barely outrunning it, even though it's actually pretty easy to do. I could take or leave the chase sequence with a mini-boss at the end though. It's fine, not that amazing. If I were a huge Uncharted fan, I could see myself absolutely adoring this level, but I spent a console generation and a half being baffled by people calling those some of the best shooters ever made, so safe to say I'm not that guy. Should have done a Jak and Daxter themed level instead. Ah well, c'est la vie. 26. Wako Taco. Now we have another boss level, this one using the Frog Punch power-up to box against a scuba-ing octopus named Wako Taco. I love Wako Taco's design. An octopus in scuba gear is very funny and cute. The fight itself is pretty fun. It did take me a few times to figure out that you're supposed to stand in front of his fist and hit it back at him during one of the phases, but I think that's on me and not the game. Slingshotting into his goggles to do damage is a fun idea. I think the highlight of this fight is when he parts the Red Sea during the transition to his final phase, and you need to cross platforms while he's shooting waves at you to try to knock you off. You can tell which platforms are safe to stand on based on whether they have sand on them or not, since the bare stone platforms have had the sand washed away. It's a nice detail. Overall, another great boss fight. 25. Turtles and Trash. Turtles and Trash is a secret level, with the theme this time being cleaning up oil and trash pollution on and around giant sea turtles. It's extremely cute, love this idea. You use a rubber duck power-up to clean oil and defeat enemies spreading it. When you clean the turtles off, greenery pops up to cover their backs, which feels satisfying in a Super Mario Sunshine cleaning up the graffiti kind of way. The water and beach levels in this game are all gorgeous. Because 3D platformers tend to be made by either indies or Nintendo at this point, it's very rare to see one modeled with such high-end graphics, but in Astro Bot you can practically count the grains of sand on the beach. This level ends with another boss fight, which, similar to the dragon in Danger Dojo, uses the controller's gyro aim. Here though, instead of throwing shuriken, you're vacuuming up a monster made of trash and slime. Very cute, very fun. Easy level, but it absolutely gets by on charm alone. 24. Free Big Brother. Free Big Brother is a level I've referenced a few times already. In this level, there's a giant robot called Big Brother that has been captured by enemies, and you need to run through the level to find paths to several locks, keeping him chained. Break the locks and set him free, and he pulls a giant seashell from underwater and helps you climb it to reach the exit. This is one of the open levels of the game where you're given an environment to explore and can do the objectives and grab the collectibles in any order, and I feel like this one is just perfectly sized. It feels open and fun to explore, but the points of interest are densely packed enough that you're never far from your next objective. I like the secret exit hidden in this level. It's one of the easier ones to find, but the way you open the door to it is clever. There's an alien enemy that hovers over you and shoots electricity at you, and this one is positioned by 2 electric panels that you need to get him to zap in order to open the door up. An interesting use of an enemy like this definitely earns this level some bonus points. I love the character of Big Brother, and I'm glad he pops up again in a later level. Honestly, I was hoping he'd show up in the crash site skybox once you'd rescued him. The platforming itself in this level is a bit simple, but as one of the open exploration-based levels, I don't necessarily think that's a huge problem. Another small thing I'd like to point out is that in one area of this level, you literally do the Crumble Rumble thing of fighting enemies on a breakable floor, which is how the concept of Crumble Rumble should have been used in this game. It's a concept that merits being in an encounter or 2 in other levels of the game, not a concept that warrants 5 levels of its own. Okay, enough dunking on Crumble Rumble. Free Big Brother is a great, memorable level. Love it. 23. Construction Derby. Construction Derby is the first appearance of the Bulldog power-up, and it's one of the best early levels in the game, appearing in the first set. This is a direct precursor to the Mighty Chewy boss fight, with the same aesthetic and even an early cameo of the boss at one point. This level's got a lot of fun moments. I love these sumo enemies who don't get used all that often in the game. I love this one hidden section where you make paint fall onto invisible platforms, which reveals a little secret path to a collectible. I love that the Bulldog power-up always gets a little doghouse at the end of stages where you use him, and it's always themed to the level. This one is a ton of fun to play. It's well themed, definitely a great level. 22. Mechaleon. And now we have the boss of the Camo Cosmos Galaxy, Mechaleon. First, I love that Mechaleon's name is an anagram of chameleon. That's very cute. This is another very fun boss fight, this one using one of my favorite power-ups, the slow motion headset, which looks like a PSVR headset. Mechaleon not only throws a lot of enemies at you, but shoots fire at you very quickly, which you can use the power-up to dodge through. The attack you're looking for that gives you a chance to damage him is his tongue attack. Once you've dodged the tongue, you can use the slow-mo to run up it like a bridge to punch his uvula and damage him. Between phases, he'll jump to new platforms and shoot buzzsaws, which you need to slow time down to platform across while they're flying at you. This boss fight is really creative, it uses a really fun power-up in clever ways, and it's been a lot of fun each time I've played it. It's a great time all around. 21. Going Loco. We've got another PlayStation-themed level, this time based on Loco Roco. I've never played Loco Roco, but I have played Kirby's Tilt and Tumble. Oh my god, is that what Loco Roco is? Is that what Loco Roco always was? I should go play those games, I think. Yeah, I never had a PSP, so all of those games completely passed me by as a kid. Never played Patapon, never played Loco Roco, didn't get a chance to play Birth by Sleep until the PS3 version came out, but man, this level was a ton of fun. If you, like me, don't really know what Loco Roco is, this level turns Astro into a little blob guy, and instead of controlling him directly with the sticks, you tilt the controller to tilt the entire level around and guide Astro through it. You can also hit the L2 or R2 buttons to zap Astro with lightning, and break him up from being one big blob into a bunch of little blobs to get through narrow spaces, and then hit the button again to reunite him into one big boy. Adorable, very creative, great use of the gyro and the controller. I love this one. I honestly might pick up the Loco Roco remaster at some point to give it a shot. So yeah, I guess for the cynics in the audience, Astro Bot's subliminal advertising worked on me. I'm a mark. 20. Lightbulb Limbo. Lightbulb Limbo is the first of the spooky ghost-themed levels to appear on this list. There are a few of these throughout the game, and they're all a treat. The spooky theming is really well done. Ghost house levels are a long-standing 3D platformer tradition, but I'm a sucker for a spooky level in a game, and this one is great. It's so fun to look around the environment in these. The ghosts look a lot like Luigi's Mansion ghosts, which I have to imagine was deliberate. There are also mimic coins here, enemies that look like the high-value big coins you're picking up throughout the game, but then turn evil and try to crush you. They don't actually use these guys very often, so they're spaced out far enough that there's a good chance one will actually get you whenever you do find one. I love mimics. Mimics are the best. I love that Astro Bot has mimics in it. This level uses the Lightbulb power-up to reveal hidden platforms as you're going along, which is a mechanic that I like whenever it shows up. All of these ghost levels are a treat. This one is the simplest of the three, which puts it below the others, but it's still a great level. 19. Voxel Bust Up. Remember Retro Rampage? Well, the one good thing about Retro Rampage, the cool aesthetic, is because they made all of those assets for this, the good voxel level, Voxel Bust Up. There's not a lot to say here that isn't immediately evident by just looking at the screen. It looks great. You get the Bulldog power-up, and everything you destroy, both enemies and objects, falls apart and spreads over the stage, and it's fun to run around in these fields of voxels. I will say this level caused my PS5 to overheat the first time I played it. Can't handle all of those voxels, I guess. I pulled the plates off and vacuumed it out, and it hasn't overheated again since, but I'd like to formally apologize to Silent Hill: The Short Message. When I reviewed that game like a year ago, I blamed it for making my PS5 overheat like 3 times, but I think my PS5 might just be having overheating issues, and that was the first game that happened to cause it. So, yeah, Voxel Bust Up. Really good level. Be sure to vacuum out your PS5 fans every so often. I mean, I've been doing that every 3 months or so, and I'm still having this problem. It's the first PlayStation system I've ever had overheating problems with, and I've owned all 5 of the main systems. I don't think putting the fans underneath the plates was a good idea on this one. And that's my review of the PlayStation 5's ventilation fans. 18. Furnace Fever. Furnace Fever is the best of Astro Bot's lava levels. Not only is it a ton of fun to play, with grind rails that I'm always a sucker for, and a rubber duck power-up you have to use to spray water to cool down, but it's also got a super cute aesthetic. The idea with this one is that the volcano is sick, he's got a fever, so you've got to reach him and use a giant firefighter rubber duck to cool him down to make him feel better. It reminds me of the Pixar short film Lava. I'm mostly just impressed that they found a way to do a novel spin on a video game level idea as ubiquitous as lava level. Spy Kids 3D made a joke about there being too many lava levels in games, and that movie is old enough to drink now. Finding a way to do a creative lava level I don't feel like I've seen a million times before is very impressive. 17. Spooky Time. Spooky Time is another ghost level and another use of the slow-mo power-up. 2 great tastes that taste great together. This level uses that power-up in some really clever ways, like when ghosts try to stop you from progressing by slamming a gate shut on you, and so you have to use the power-up to make it through before they can cut you off. My single favorite use of the slow-mo power-up in this game, though, is this optional section with a lightning effect briefly illuminating rotating platforms. The slow-mo makes these brief glimpses of light long enough to cross the platforms. We also have the ghosts rapidly throwing knives, another appearance of the light bulb to reveal hidden platforms, and a final section where ghosts are spinning a ton of platforms around a central area containing the exit flag. This level combines 2 of my favorite elements in this game, the ghost theme and the slow-mo power-up. Of course, that makes it one of the best levels this game has to offer. 16. Play Squadron Go. Next, we have another weird one from the ending sequence that was hard to rank. Play Squadron Go plays completely differently from the rest of the game, playing like a Star Fox-esque space shooter rather than a 3D platformer. Gameplay-wise, this level is fine. You control Astro's DualSense speeder with the gyro and shoot lasers at enemies in your way. Where this level shines is its tons of personality. This is the bot's final push to reach the final boss of the game, Space Bully Nebulax. And so it's not just Astro piloting a speeder and fighting against Nebulax's army of aliens, it's all of the bots you've spent the game collecting. There are a ton of speeders here, each based on a different piece of PlayStation hardware from the past. The PSP, the PlayStation camera, the Move controllers. There's so much going on in the background that you could play through this level 10 times and still not catch all of it. I didn't want to put this any higher than the top of B tier because it is so different from the rest of the game, but I do think this level is a ton of fun to both play and just to look at, and it definitely put a smile on my face. 15. Ghouls and Bots. And now we have reached my top 15 levels in the game, the beginning of A tier. These levels are all amazing. I've got 10 levels listed in A tier, and the final 5 absolute cream of the crop levels in S tier, but all of these levels are just tremendous. These are the kind of levels that any 3D platformer would be lucky to include. Ghouls and Bots is another secret level, and the final ghost level on this list. It's a ton of fun for the same reason the other ghost levels are. Light bulbs, strong theming, and fun platforming, but it's also got some gimmicks I think are cute. There's this one part I imagine a lot of people will roll their eyes at and hate. It happens a few times throughout the game where they have you blow into the controller's microphone to cause wind to, in this case, blow out candles on a chandelier. I can't help but like this. It's cute. It's not like this is Phantom Hourglass or something, where I'm supposed to yell into my DS while out in public. I will blow on my controller in the privacy of my own home to make these candles go out, and it'll make me smile. The gimmick part I really like, though, is at the end here, where you have a gyro aim controller battle against the ghosts, taking them out by shining a light at them. If you take too long, fire will spread to the center of the controller, and Astro will be cooked. 14. Let It Slide. By far the highest speedrun level on this list, I think Let It Slide is an absolute blast to play. This one is so great because it uses the elephant vacuum power-up with the blue liquid that lets you make ice slopes to ride across. Not only is this whole level on ice, which is fun because the ice skating controls feel very fast and fluid, but the ability to create your own ice slopes means you can absolutely destroy this level, building your own bridges to skip half of it. Just cut every corner possible. It's great. It is an absolute blast. I love it to death. 13. Go-Go Archipelago. Go-Go Archipelago is the other pirate-themed level in the game. This is one of the levels with a one-off unique power-up that doesn't appear anywhere else in the base game, but this time it's the monkey power-up that lets you grab onto things with the L2 and R2 buttons and climb cliffs using grips and the gyro controls. I hated the monkey speedrun level, but when you don't have to worry about how quickly you're climbing, I think it's a lot of fun to use. I wouldn't really want a whole game of this kind of gyro climbing, but they use it really sparingly here, so it's a fun way to break up this level. They also use the monkey power-up to let you grab rocks and throw them at enemies and obstacles, and that's pretty fun to use too. This is a bit more on the open side of levels in the game. It's still a linear path, but you're progressing from one large area to poke around to the next. The second large open area in particular, after you make it past the crab, has a lot of fun stuff to find, like these two enemies who are on a date down below the main path of the level. This level, like all of the beach levels, is ridiculously gorgeous. The enemies here are also themed, with little inflatable tubes around them, which is cute. This level ends with a boss fight against the evil pirate Captain Pincher, who has a great design. Like I said earlier, I think this is the weaker of the two pirate boss fights. Here you need to throw rocks at his barrel leg to uncover a route you can climb up him, giving this some light Shadow of the Colossus energy. Then at the top you grab onto his head and use the monkey to toss it right off his body to defeat him. It's fun, but the fight against Captain Shortfuse is a bit more of a traditional boss fight, so I'd give it the edge. The rest of the level is great though, which places this very high up on the list. 12. Lady Venomara. Another Galaxy End boss, Lady Venomara awaits at the end of the third galaxy in the game, Serpent Starway. You use the Rocket Chicken power-up here to jump high above the platform as she sweeps it with her tail, trying to knock you off. You're waiting for her to try to get you with a dash across the arena, at which point you need to hit the giant glowing weak points on the side of her body. Once you've hit all of them, she'll be stunned, letting you get a damaging hit on the jewel on her jaw with the Rocket Chicken. This fight is fast-paced and feels hectic in the best way. As the fight goes along, she'll destroy rings of the arena, shrinking it down smaller as the fight goes along, giving you less time to react. A detail I like here is how they represent her health with her fangs. The first 2 times you damage her, she'll spit out one of her fangs, giving a subtle visual indicator for how much damage you've dealt to her. For her final phase, you knock her straight out of the Egyptian pharaoh headdress she's wearing that makes her look like a cobra, and ride across her body as she speeds through the jungle, spitting enemies and balls of poison at you. This reminds me a lot of the train section of Uncharted 2, which I have to imagine is a deliberate reference, because defeating Lady Venomara is how you rescue the Nathan Drake bot, and this leads directly into dude raiding. This final section looks great and is also a lot of fun, and I think punching her out of her cobra headdress is extremely funny. Another great boss fight. 11. Ginny of the Lamp. Ginny of the Lamp has so much going for it. Pretty much everything I like about Astro Bot is here somewhere. This level is split into 2 halves. The first is an open world exploration based level where you're running around a vaguely Arabian Nights themed town. There's a bunch of fun stuff to do here, cute interactions like a snake charmer who raises a rope for you to reach the top of a building, or fighting these enemies that are bullying an elephant. When you're done exploring the level's open section, you can run to a giant lamp at the end and run Astro back and forth along its surface to free the genie within. The second half of this level is a more standard linear platformer level, where you're now crossing over the buildings from the town portion earlier, being lifted up by the sandstorm whirlwind the genie has summoned. This part is much more challenging and a lot of fun, and partway through you get the bulldog power-up. Then this level ends with the normal mode boss fight against the genie, which I already described back when I talked about Ginny's Revenge. This level also has a really fun secret exit. Once you've beaten the genie, you're plopped down right in front of the regular exit, but you can catch a quick glimpse of the secret exit on a platform above you while you're falling. If you run behind the exit, you can find the same stones that were suspending some of the platforms in the whirlwind. There are invisible platforms above these special stones, so you can use them to guide yourself across this chasm you've landed in to make your way to a flying carpet that will take you to the exit. There's so much to love about this level. This is Astro Bot firing with all cylinders. This would be the best level of most other 3D platformers, so the fact that it isn't even in my top 10 for Astro Bot is kind of insane. Heck of a level, heck of a game. 10. Final Encore. Final Encore is the final level in Lost Galaxy. You unlock it by beating all of the other 10 secret levels within Lost Galaxy, which means it's going to be one of the last levels you end up playing in the game, since you'll need to have found all of the secret exits throughout the 5 main galaxies. Where Grandmaster Challenge is a difficulty send-off for the game, this is an aesthetic send-off for it. We have a unique power-up here, at least pre-DLC, that bear I mentioned earlier, who bangs cymbals together when you press both L2 and R2. Clashing these cymbals makes things happen nearby when you do so. That can be raising or lowering platforms, it can be knocking enemies over, it can be making a cannon fire, or whatever else. This plays like a better version of the wavy tube men levels to me. It's a very similar idea, using L2 and R2 to raise and lower platforms, but here we've got all sorts of other interactions for it as well. The platforming isn't the hardest in the game, but it is challenging enough to be fun this late in the game. There are also several rail grinding sections where you have to quickly clash the cymbals to spin walls to cross them, which is some of the most fun rail grinding in the game. The theme is super fun, it feels like the game is really celebrating you for being a completionist. I'm glad there is both this and a more traditional final challenge level, because it lets this function as more of a breezy celebration. It's a great send-off for the game's secret levels. 9. Trunk of Funk. Aw yeah, we've got Trunk of Funk up next. Alright, let's not beat around the bush here. This ranks very high because of the music. At the beginning of the level, you come across a giant sprout that's wilting from a lack of water. These ants are trying their best to water it, but they can only do so much. After defeating some enemies, you get to aim a fire hose at the sprout with this controller's gyro, and it grows into a gigantic tree called the Papa Tree. Then the Papa Tree breaks out into a song that plays in the background for the rest of the level, and it's an absolute bop. Okay. This is the most highly specific reference I have ever made on this channel, and probably will ever make on this channel, but I have to say this out loud. There's an obscure machinima from 2009 called The Legend of Cool. By obscure, I mean the most popular re-upload of it on YouTube now has less than 9,000 views. It's definitely a forgotten relic of the time. It's a song/music video about Ocarina of Time. We used to do stuff like this on the internet, don't worry about it. The point is, in the part of the song with the Deku Tree, he sings,
"Don't be stupid, boy. The future is the key. Now get in my mouth and fulfill your destiny."
Meanwhile, in Astro Bot, one of the first lines the Papa Tree sings is,
"Now jump up into my mouth. Jump up into my mouth. I want you to jump up into my mouth. Jump up into my mouth."
Now, am I saying that Kenneth C.M. Young, the composer for Astro Bot, saw this obscure machinima 15 years ago and wrote a reference to it into Astro Bot? No, probably not, but it's close enough that it gave me an immediate sense memory flashback to watching Machinima as a teenager, and if I didn't mention it here, I would actually die. The puppetry song absolutely rules. I haven't talked about the music in Astro Bot too heavily yet, aside from the fun remixes in the PlayStation-themed levels, but the whole soundtrack is outstanding. There are subtle uses of lyrics throughout the whole soundtrack, but this is where they're the most obvious. As the level goes on, he adds more verses to the song that tell you about a bird nest up at the top of the tree that he needs you to get rid of before they drive him mad. It's great. The level's great too. This one uses the elephant vacuum power-up, and instead of concrete, you've got green liquid to make little shrubbery platforms, and later on, honey platforms. Always fun to use, and they hide things in some tricky spots you need to use all your charges of the green liquid to reach. There's also these skull jar enemies I haven't talked about yet. They only show up when you've got the elephant vacuum power-up, and throw their glass lids at you. They're easy to shatter with a single punch, but you have to use the vacuum to suck up their gooey insides to defeat them for good. There are some really nice little details in this level too, like one of the collectibles requiring you to hit a golf ball into a hole, or this animation that plays if you jump up onto a cow at the start of the level. Astro Bot will snuggle up to him. It's adorable. The boss at the end of this level is very charming. It gives big Splatoon boss energy, being 3 partially formed, partially yolked baby birds in their shells stacked on top of each other. Beating them is really easy, you just have to trampoline up above them while avoiding the poison jets they're spitting, land, and then vacuum their yolks right out of their shells. It's still a lot of fun to execute though. Great personality and great platforming make this one of the most memorable levels in the game. Definitely one of the levels that makes this whole game worth playing. 8. Falcon McFly. Falcon McFly is the end boss of the last galaxy in the game, Feather Cluster. And of the 5 end of galaxy bosses, I think he's the very best. This fight looks fantastic. Like the ending of Lady Venomara's boss fight, you're riding on the boss himself and use his body and wings as the arena. This really sells the feeling that you're moving very fast and do not want to fall off. Falcon McFly himself is the most Looney Tunes looking character in the game, which makes bonking him on the head repeatedly a lot of fun. The fight uses the Morph Ball power-up and requires you to slam down hard on plates to flip Falcon McFly around until you reveal a trampoline that lets you bonk him on his safety helmet. The plates on his wings are bolted on, and you need to spin attack them to unscrew them, which adds an extra wrinkle while he's shooting you, throwing enemies at you, and just generally trying to knock you off of him. It looks great, it feels good to play, it has enough going on that it feels appropriately difficult for being this late in the game. All of this makes Falcon McFly not just a great boss, but one of the best levels in the game. 7. Slow-Mo Casino. I think I've mentioned a few times on this channel that I have spent most of my life in Las Vegas, Nevada. Moved to Vegas when I was a kid, and I've spent the years since moving away and moving back. I grew up in Vegas. It's my hometown. That means I've got a tremendous amount of affection for casino levels in games. These are always a blast to me. Slow-Mo Casino is one of the best. This is the first time I saw the slow-mo power-up in the game, which ended up being one of my very favorites, so that was a treat. The platforms in this level are all things like poker chips or roulette tables, or even darts being thrown at a board you need to slow down time to stand on. There's also these card enemies who are really great and never show up again. They throw cards at you from across gaps, and you need to slow down time to platform across the cards in midair and then punch them in the face. In the same way the volcano enemies in Cannon Brawl teach you how to handle Falcon McFly's Gatling gun attack well before you reach the level, these teach you in a low-stakes way how to deal with Mecha Leon throwing buzzsaws at you to cross a gap without you even realizing it. That's really great because it means when you get to that attack much later on, you instinctively understand what they want you to do because you've seen this power-up used in this way earlier, so that attack doesn't feel unfair. I know I said puppetry was a bop, and I thought going into making this video that it was the best song on the soundtrack, but while working on this script, I've been listening to the Astro Bot soundtrack on Spotify, and it turns out that no, the best song on the soundtrack is Casino no Guarantino. This has such Dreamcast energy to it, I'd love it to death. If there is a criticism I have for this level, it's that the actual skybox is kind of boring, but there's plenty of interesting neon signs and things floating around outside the level itself to make things look really snazzy. This level just gets me pumped. It is so good. 6. Winter Wonder. This level was added in December as the second piece of free DLC for the game. This is one of those levels that gives you a little open world to explore and isn't focused on particularly difficult platforming. I'm not going to criticize it for that, because it pretty clearly isn't trying to be challenging, and it's not even in the regular sequence of levels, so it's not like I can even say, oh well, for this late in the game it should be harder than this. This level is a sandbox that gives you every power-up in the game, aside from the PlayStation-themed ones, and lets you run around exploring with them. Given how many power-ups are only used once, and then never again in the base game, it's a lot of fun to have a space to play around with all of them. There are 15 presents hidden to find throughout the level, and these can contain special bots that were absent from the main game, like Spider-Man, or Gex. Some of the presents, though, contain extra items for the main game, like new skins for your speeder, or even new costumes for Astro to wear. It feels really nice that they gave everyone this DLC for free and included these cosmetics. Didn't try to sell the Astro Santa outfit to you for $3.99 or something. I mean, it's a $70 game, they weren't being too generous, let's not get it twisted, but it's still nice. I love how many custom assets there are for this level. All the enemies are dressed up in little Christmas outfits, there are presents everywhere, and ornaments, and an entire mouse city made out of gingerbread. Oh my god, I love the gingerbread city so much. Lots of hidden places to explore, lots of fun things to find. This level is utterly delightful and a really great addition to the game. Worm is here. From Worms. How could this level be anything but great? 5. Space Bully Nebulax. And here we are, the top 5, the S-rank levels, the absolute best of the best. Each of these are must-play 3D platformer levels that make Astro Bot a must-play overall. I mean, there's only 3 games for PS5, and 2 of them are Astro Bot games, but dang if some of these levels didn't justify my purchase of the system. At number 5, I've got Space Bully Nebulax, the final boss of the game. The gimmick to Space Bully Nebulax is that he spins a wheel and you have to stop it to get a power-up, which then determines which version of the fight the next phase will transition to. There's also an enemy slot on the wheel that will just spin some enemies and stall the fight until you defeat them. You only have to damage Nebulax 3 times in order to complete the fight, and there are 5 potential different power-up phases, which means you won't even see the whole fight unless you replay the level. That and the randomness of which phase you'll get when gives this boss a lot of replayability. It's not as easy to solve as the other bosses, which are less random. Each phase is fun, no matter which power-up you get. The fight also looks amazing. It's got that positive hectic feel I talked about with Lady Venomara, dialed up to 11. Nebulax almost looks like he's moving in fast forward, and that plus the music makes the fight feel chaotic and crazy, without feeling too hard or too overwhelming. Each time you finish a phase of the fight, Nebulax is flipped over and you can break one of the locks keeping the CPU trapped. The last part of your ship you need to get back after Nebulax stole them at the start of the game. Nebulax's design is really fun. It's like the traditional flying saucer UFO design mixed with the Yokians from Jimmy Neutron. He's super expressive and makes for a great villain for the game, and a great final boss. I looked it up, and apparently Nebulax is the final boss of Astro Bot Rescue Mission, the VR game, as well. So I guess this guy is like Astro Bot's Bowser or his Dr. Cortex. He's a pretty good villain for the game. Once you've beaten Nebulax and you think you've won, he surprises you one more time, and you have to use the gyro aim to shoot projectiles he throws at you out of the air. These are objects from across the game so far, which is a nice touch. Finally, you shoot him out of the sky and get the closing cutscene to the game. If it's your first time playing the mission, you get a fun bonus segment, but that's not actually considered part of the level. Space Bully Nebulax is a fitting final boss for the game. He represents a lot of what makes Astro Bot so fun. The expressive characters, the solid platforming, the fun and creative power-ups. This is my favorite boss fight in the game, and one of the best levels in the game overall. Astro Bot ends well. They knocked it out of the park with this final boss. 4. Machine Learning. The PlayStation-themed levels all have the same appeal to me as the best LEGO games. It's very fun to see a story that takes itself seriously, like Star Wars or The Lord of the Rings, and see it reenacted and poked fun at with literal toys. It has the feeling of kids playing with their toys to retell a story they've heard or a movie they've seen. There's a sense of affection for the source material, and so I think your personal preference for these PlayStation-themed levels is going to come down to how much affection you have for the games they are based on. I'm not familiar with Ape Escape at all, I don't really like Uncharted that much, and I've never played Loco Roco, so those ended up a lot lower on this list. The 2 PlayStation-themed levels we have left are both based on games I really love, and they both do a great job of capturing those games in microcosm. Number 4 on this list is Machine Learning, which is based on the Horizon games. For the power-up, you become Aloy and get a bow and arrow to shoot distant objects. I love the Horizon games. They're like Ubisoft games if Ubisoft games were good. This is a really good snapshot of them in fast forward, and it has that LEGO game appeal of seeing the story of Horizon recreated in a cute, family-friendly style, which is funny because there actually was a LEGO Horizon Zero Dawn game released around the same time as Astro Bot. I haven't played that, no idea if it's good or not. They nail the look of everything here, which is impressive because Horizon has a very distinct look to it. Redesigning elements of those games in a cuter art style could have meant losing the personality in transition, but they pull it off. All of the enemies have custom looks for this level, which is really cool, and they've shown off a ton of great memorable elements from Horizon, specifically from Forbidden West. This level is, of course, a ton of fun to play. They have some fun ideas here for how to represent Horizon gameplay in Astro Bot, like putting dangerous tripcaster lines around the level, which you can either destroy with your laser legs, or which you can lure enemies into to trick them into destroying themselves. The best part of this level, though, is Blunderjaw, the cartoonish version of Horizon's most recognizable enemy, the Metal T-Rex Thunderjaw. I will admit, Blunderjaw is the most lost in translation character that's been redesigned from the source game to here. If you showed me this design in a vacuum, I would have no idea it's supposed to be a Thunderjaw, but it is an adorable and hilarious robot T-Rex, and the fight itself is a really great way to model the gameplay of Horizon, where you're shooting individual pieces off of enemies. Here you're shooting his glowing canister weak points while riding on the back of a giant sea turtle. It's a fun way to end a level I really loved. 3. Downsize Surprise. Downsize Surprise is another one of those levels with a completely unique power-up. This one gives Astro big mouse ears and lets him shrink himself down to get real tiny. Shrinking levels aren't uncommon in games, and 3D platformers especially. I've seen this idea before, but this does it better than I've ever seen. Not only can you shrink and grow instantly at the push of a button, instead of going through any sort of locked animation or hidden load screen, but once you get small, they do a great job of selling the sense of scale. The background music sounds further away and slightly muffled. The simplest enemies in the game are now giant, and you can hear their stomps cause the ground to shake, and literally feel that ground shake thanks to the controller's haptics. Distant objects become blurred, making things that were once close suddenly look extremely far away. It is the best execution of a common game trope I've ever seen. This idea and this power-up doesn't overstay its welcome either. This only pops up here and in the Winter Wonder DLC, where you use it to explore the Gingerbread City. And guys, the mice are computer mice. Come on. It's a really fun level to play, and it makes great use of the big small theme. You rail grind across a clothesline, knocking clothespins from it as you pass. You rescue one of the collectible bots by jumping onto a bed, shrinking down under the covers, and then growing back to full size to throw the blanket off of him. There are 2 bots having a picnic, and you ruin it by throwing their blanket off and revealing a bunch of spiders underneath it. You climb up the leaves of a plant and watch the wires in them light up, because everything is bots in this game. You jump on bubbles to lift you up to a secret, and watch them distend and shift with Astro's weight. This is another one where they put some special bots here that made sense with the theme, too. Specifically the Prince from Katamari Damacy, and Quill from Moss. Everything about this level is perfect, just an outstanding execution of a premise that's already fun in games that use it worse. This is video games, man. This is what you want video games to be. 2. Bot of War. This is the last PlayStation-themed level on the list. Bot of War is, of course, based on God of War, specifically the Dad of Boy sequel games, God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. The special power in this one is turning into Kratos, and the reason this level is this high is because they've created their own version of the Leviathan axe from those games that controls in the same way. If you haven't played the God of War sequel games, their most unique feature is the axe which Kratos uses, the Leviathan axe. It works like Mjolnir. You can have Kratos throw it, and then he'll hold out his hand to call it back to him. The most impressive thing about the gameplay of the God of War reboots is how perfect this feels. It doesn't automatically recall during combat. You have to hit the triangle button to call it back manually every time, and you can use that to your advantage. They fine-tuned this thing so that it behaves exactly how you would expect it to. It is reliable, it flies to you at great speed, but still feels heavy. It can be used to hit enemies a second time on the way back, and it always feels like it takes exactly as long to make it back to you as you'd expect it to based on the distance it was thrown. I mean, a lesser game would have Kratos grab it off his back if you hit triangle while it's already there instead of being thrown, but no. Instead, you get a special animation where Kratos calls it to his hand instead of drawing it manually. That's so good. The sound of it returning to Kratos is perfect. The rumble in your hands when it hits his hands is perfect. God of War 2018 is not a perfect game, but the Leviathan axe is literally one of the most perfectly designed mechanics that has ever been in a video game. It's like web slinging in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. They got one mechanic so right that everything surrounding that mechanic almost doesn't matter. Throwing the Leviathan axe could be the only thing you do in a video game, and it would still be a pretty great video game. Astro Bot created their own version of the Leviathan axe for a single level, and they got it right. That's mind-blowing. That feels impossible. But yes, it works exactly how you'd expect it to. This is the Leviathan axe. If you've played God of War, it behaves how you want it to. You just throw it with a single L2 or R2 button push and call it back with the same button instead of triangle. I cannot believe they got this right. I can't even believe that they tried. I mean, I love Astro Bot. I think this game feels great to control, but this is such an out-of-nowhere mechanic with such a high bar set by the game it's originally from. I can't believe that it doesn't feel like a janky nightmare in comparison. It's so good. After playing this level, I went and replayed God of War 2018 because it had given me a deep urge to keep throwing the axe. I'm halfway through a replay of Ragnarok now as I write this, and it is Astro Bot's fault. And everything else about the level is great too. Again, I love this family-friendly, LEGO game-esque retelling of elements of the God of War story. I love seeing the Astro Bot version of Jormungandr. I love that they hid Odin's ravens throughout the level and gave you a trophy for poofing all of them. I love that you can throw the axe at enemies to freeze them and use them as platforming blocks. I love that they have the same gears you have to freeze with the axe in the real game. I love that the boss is a big pig called Nidhogg. That's hilarious. I love that the Kratos version of Astro Bot gets American Kirby's angry eyes. The only knock I have against this level, and it is a small thing, is that as a fan of the original Grecian God of War games too, it's a little disappointing that none of the special bots in this level are a reference to them. We didn't get Zeus or Athena or anything like that, because Sony seems a lot more interested in acknowledging the prestigious recent God of War games than they are the pulpier games that came before. You know what though? That -1 point is made up for with +1 point of extra credit because the song Bot of War on the soundtrack ends with a sample of Christopher Judge as Kratos saying,
Boy.
"Perfect! No notes!" 1. Bathhouse Battle. Bathhouse Battle is a level in the third galaxy of the game around the game's midpoint. It's another one with a unique power-up that only appears here, and this one is really creative. The level is, as you'd expect from the title, set in a bathhouse and hot springs. The power-up turns Astro into a sponge. By submerging Astro in water, you can make him grow to giant size, and then by pressing L2 or R2, wring him out to reduce him back to regular Astro Bot scale. This sounds very simple, and it is, but they get a lot out of it. First of all, whenever Astro is giant-sized, he can destroy objects or even most enemies just by touching them, which gives this level a weird kaiju appeal as you can rampage through the mission destroying everything in your wake. They definitely knew you would want to do this, and have positioned things at many points in whatever pattern would make them the most satisfying to destroy. Being able to shrink down and grow gigantic also gives this a lot of the same gameplay appeal as Downsize Surprise, just in the other direction. At several points you have to get small to fit through a door or platform across narrow beams. What elevated this level though is actually not what you'd first think upon hearing of this power-up. It's the wringing out water that's interesting here. When you do this, you splash water everywhere, and that ends up being the most interesting part of this mechanically. There are plants hidden around which you can water by wringing yourself out over them. There are sponges which will turn into full platforms briefly after being watered by Astro, and there are fire enemies that can only be defeated by blasting them with water. They do weirder stuff with this too, like there's a giant Shishiadoshi, those tilting bamboo water feature things, and you have to wring out Astro to fill the end with water so it'll tilt and turn into a bridge. Wildly creative. The trickiest part of this level is a hidden lava section, where you need to jump over the lava as Big Sponge Astro, wring yourself out in midair, and then land on the platform created by the water cooling down the lava below you. For any of the fire elements, you are also able to take one hit while you're big, which will only evaporate the water within Astro and put him back at normal size. It's also just unbelievably breathtakingly gorgeous. Not only is the theme fun, and not only is there plenty of cute stuff like the monkey robots, especially the one that goes down the water slide and then sits at the bottom of it cheering, but it also looks great in a technical sense. Look at how great the steam looks. This water looks hot, and that is not something common in video games. It's not the first game that's represented steam well, of course, but it's still impressive. Also, at one point, there's an oil blob monster. If you walk over the oil slick, Astro's feet will absorb a little bit of the oil and stain his legs black. Then if you jump into the water, you can see the oil wash out and leave one of those rainbow slicks that oil leaves in water for a moment. That is an insane level of detail. This was the level that made me want to make this video. I was not planning on covering Astro Bot when I started playing it. It's a weird fit to talk about on my channel. But man, I got to this level and I realized I had to talk about how good this game is and how good this level is right away. Wildly creative, perfect execution, gorgeous environment. This level is the complete package. I love 3D platformers, and this is one of the best levels I've ever seen in one. This is phenomenal. This is a perfect video game level. And Astro Bot is now among my favorite games in the genre because of levels like this. Phew! Well, there you have it. All 86 levels in Astro Bot ranked. Do you think I got this wrong? Let me know / call me a Sony shill for liking a video game down in the comments. Special thank you to all of my gold tier Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members who have pledged $5 and above per month to help me keep the lights on here. Schmandolf the Smay, Kirsten, Captain Swing, Devale, Mouse V, Lieria, Theo D, Noah Phoenix, The Smallest Church in Wienerville, Gassan Abenura, Patrizia Frabetti, Sninkelberg, Ziggy the 31st, Frondi, Yo-Yo Jojo Mojo, Tsai Voafehi, Dan Luther, Still Just Cow, Jose Armalas, Cabbage, Rekka, Alex Smith, Picayune, Hakan Boyum, Pete Lee, Shiny Emptyhead, That's All, Bell Mage, Malachi Murphy, Strix 2031, Chaothic, Pizza Requiem, Panosny Kariznik, Rules in Place, Raxarox, Mikaru X, Unhealthy Caillou, Sir Darkon, and Rachel Aurelia. With that, we've reached the end of the video, so until next time everyone, take care.